Okay, welcome back everyone, Zaf here to a very juicy video on SO Radish. Yes, we're going to cover her build and her skill rotations because, as the title does say, you are using her incorrectly to a shocking degree. Even I was myself. After I uploaded a video on her, it was about an hour into the upload, I got some new information and well, I deleted that 15 plus minute video on her because I want to make sure the information I put out is always correct. So let's do a revamp guide. This video is much needed because ESIL is truly one of the best buffer supporters, but not breakers in the game. You do not want to break on her, at least not right away, so I'll cover that with you. Very important. Getting these stacks up here is vital to your team's damage, not ESIL's damage. Please do note, ESIL is not a damage dealer. Although you can build her up to have 30,000 plus attack, she's just not good in the damage department. Sure, I know, she can deal a bit of damage, but that's not her main focus. Her main focus is right here, building up these stacks. Yes, she's cute, but these stacks right here, super important, that by the time you break the boss, you should have 50 stacks on the target. That way, it transitions into Prayer of the Week, and then you can get more stacks on the target. And that's because of ESIL, she does have an increased break duration on the target, where the break state is extended by 3 seconds, meaning you can put in more stacks on the target when it comes to the prey effect. So let me just cover all that with you, that we understand, because she's honestly a very complicated hunter. But first off, make sure if you haven't yet to support us on Never Support Program, it is free. You get codes from supporting. That's why I suggest you do it. There is no cost associated to it, and you get these codes right here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 codes right now. You get about 12 hours after supporting. There's also more codes coming out that you can get. We have one coming for 1,000 essence, but other codes as well, so just support us. The link is down below. That way I can send you all those benefits, but also, we do have giveaways on our Discord server for people who are supporting, so make sure you join. We have 1, 2, 3 giveaways right now that you can enter for $100 each, so make sure you join and bankrupt me of all my money. That way, you can get more benefits, but also one more thing, a big shout out to Mortal Burrito for being the first comment to our last video. Here's your shout out and enjoy that juicy Discord roll. Alright, let's jump into the nitty gritty when it comes to SO Radish. First off, her best skin, no, I'm just joking. When it comes to her build, the artifact set you want to run on her is the Greed set. I know, that's kind of a shock because earlier, if you watched, I mentioned that with ESIL, you actually do not want to break using her. What's the catch? Well, the Greed set is still good because, based on her skill rotation, you're not going to be using her skills to the way you assume, which I'll show you, don't worry. Her skill rotation is actually very complicated. It is something we've really never seen before, so again, I'll show you. But when it comes to our effect set, the Greed set is the way to go because of this right here. ESIL is not a damage dealer. You're not going to be running Obsidian on her. You're not going to be running the Extra on her. She is a buffer, a breaker, and a supporter first. Her damage is pretty much not needed at all. It's very, very minimal. Even on the guild boss, you want to be running the Greed set. That's the best way to run her because, as you can see, she gets a very important effect right here. Increase the user and their team members' crit rate and crit damage by 30%. Although we're getting this bonus here, which does increase the break effectiveness of the target by 30% if you have the elemental weakness, which is not ideal, but still, this bonus cannot be found anywhere else. You could make one argument though for one other artifact set, that being this right here, running a 4-set piece of Greed, but also equipping a 4-set of Sylph's Blessing. This set over here, let me show you. For those of you who aren't familiar, this set here, you can make the argument for it, but I would say no matter what, the Greed set is the way to go because there's one more consideration to make. You're getting more power by running an 8 set of Greed. Very, very important. The power difference is probably in the 10 to 15,000, which can make the difference between being in the red, being in the white, being in the blue when it comes to total power when you're facing a target. So very important, just use the Greed set. And when it comes to the substats, you want to focus on attack and not so much crit rate, which I'll explain. Her weapon is very interesting for that reason. So going for attack, attack percentage, going for defense pen, damage increase, crit rate, those stats are all fine. Those are the stats you want to look for. Crit damage as well, of course, on these sets here. But overall, when it comes to her stats, just make sure her crit rate isn't too high. That's actually very important because her weapon grants the team member with the highest crit rate, because this bonus here, the 2400 additional attack, only applies to the target who does have the highest crit, meaning if ESIL for some reason has the most crit, this bonus will go on her and not Yu So-hyun, for example. So make sure, if you look at your hunters, let's say I'm looking for Yu So-hyun, I want to make sure this number here is higher than ESIL's, otherwise we are screwed and we're not getting that 2400 attack bonus, which is huge. But going back to ESIL, I do want to cover a few more things. That being her passive ability. So when it comes to advances, I know a lot of you wonder, what is the sweet spot for ESIL, what is the sweet spot for Yu So-hyun, etc. Her A5 is pretty much where you want her. I know that kind of sounds a bit ridiculous, but you can build more stacks of the Prey on the Weak, very important, and it makes it a bit easier to build up, which is also very important too. Her A4 bonus as well, giving us a fence pen, is so important. So A4, A5 are already very, very good. Her A3 is fine. The only real bonus we're getting is the power gauge increase of 100% when we enter the match, but we're not really using her ultimate. I know, kind of shocking. Her ultimate is actually not needed. You're only using it if you want to break as fast as possible, which I'll show you. So the A3 bonus really isn't that good. The A4, A5 though are basically all you need to make sure ESIL is the best support hunter in the game. Well, I guess Gina's good too, but ESIL for real, one of the best fire supports. Well, actually, come on, she's the best fire support. With the effects we're getting here, yeah, she's honestly so amazing. So let me jump into her skill rotation. That's the most important part. Her skill rotation basically makes or breaks her depending on how you use her. We covered everything minus her cores. So with her cores, there's not too many important ones here. Let me show you though. Let's go to Codex because there's some new cores you do want to take note of. So as you can see here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new cores. There's honestly only 2 cores that really matter when it comes to ESIL, and they don't matter too much, honestly speaking. This one here, 5% attack, easy to get. This is fine on her, but again, doesn't need damage. This one here too is fine. For modes, if you have the Guardian set on a support unit, you can get a shield, proccing the Guardian set effect, 10% damage, but still don't need that, honestly speaking. So truly, there's really no cores you have to have on her, not a requirement. She is providing buffs, providing breaks, and that's all you need it for. Nothing else, so don't worry too much when it comes to her cores. Just equip what you have. You're better off focusing on cores for your attack dealing hunters. That way, they deal damage, where ESIL is just a supporter and a buffer and a breaker. But with that said, let's just go into the skill rotation. That's the most important part. I want to go into the workshop. That way, I can show an example that actually matters. So when you jump in, the first thing you want to do is Extreme Evasion. I know, kind of weird, but for Extreme Evasion provides you those valuable prey stacks which you do need. So let me show you, for example, as you jump in, watch very carefully. That way I can show you exactly what to do in a battle. The first thing you want to do is dodge. Yes, start dodging, but make sure you time it right. That way you can build up the stacks. So watch this very carefully. Dodging here, watch your stacks up top, dodge again, watch those stacks going up, and dodge one more time. We just got 15 stacks just by dodging. I know, kind of a shocker. Boom, another dodge, 5 more stacks, and dodge again. Look, 25 stacks, and then boom. Use your E, another 15 or so stacks. So I just got 40 stacks by doing basically nothing, dodging, and using one skill. That's why when it comes to ESIL, you do not want to break right away. You want to make sure you get 50 stacks and then break, or get those stacks up while also rotating to your hunters. For example, rotating to Gina, but not so much Gina because she doesn't build up any stacks. When it comes to stacks, Yu So-hyun, watch up top, we're getting those stacks in, 5, 6, 7, whatever they are, up to 20. That's why when it comes to a rotation, you want to incorporate your other hunters too. You don't want to break right away. That way, you can manually swap into ESIL. Once you swap into her, make sure again, build up those stacks, but you want to have the target stacks all the way up to 50 before you break them, because, very important too, she caps out at 50 stacks, but you can go past the 50 mark, and I'll show you. Let me just dodge again, and I'll explain what happens here. So watch, we're going to dodge. Look at those stacks. They did not move up. They're stuck at 50, but if I break the target, watch very carefully, those stacks get converted to the new stacking effect, and watch this, I use her E, and now we gain even more stacks, going up to the 65 mark. So I'm trying to be very, very visual here. Those stacks are so important. You cannot go past 50 unless the target is broken, but once they're broken and they stand up, you can no longer build those stacks until you break them again. Watch very carefully. So look at the number. We have 5 stacks now, and I can get it back up. Watch carefully, 10. If I use the E skill here, look, we're at what, 30, 35 stacks. So 65 and 30. Those 30 stacks are meaningless until you break the target yet again. Very important. So initially in your skill rotation, make sure you're dodging, you're not breaking right away, you don't use your ultimate. Her ultimate is basically useless for the most part. You just want to make sure you get the target to 65 stacks by getting them to 65 stacks first and then another 15 stacks. So hopefully that kind of explains it for you. With ESIL, you're focused on the stacks, not the breaks, and also the rotations. Bringing in Yuso-Hyun for the stacks, making sure damage is at the highest it can be, or even building up other stacks like self-splashing if you're QTing into your hunters like Gina for example. Again, lots of variety out there when it comes to ESIL, a lot of things to consider. But one other thing I do want to mention is, if you're curious how to break the target the fastest way possible, for some reason if you don't want to build up those stacks, you can actually use ESIL to break the target super fast, and I'll show you. So when you spawn in, you can dodge, build up those stacks too, dodge again, build up those stacks as fast as you can. Now you want to start breaking the target. Very simple with ESIL. You want to use your ultimate after all your skills are on cooldown. This boss isn't necessarily the best to use this example on because they're kind of hard to break, but you saw there we broke pretty fast. But the fastest way possible is not to spam your skills, it's actually to use your ultimate skill too, and I'll show you. So once you use your Q, your E, your core attack, etc., you can just break the target by using your ultimate too. So let me just jump in here, dodging to those stacks, very important. So watch, use our Q, core attack, etc. He's going to dash away, which is annoying, but no problem. Dodge, E, and now we can ultimate. That way, we do get even more break-in and our skill cooldowns can refresh a bit easier. Boom, 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 no problem. Breaking the target. A little bit faster, I think, than earlier. This doesn't work too well with this boss here just because they move around, but for stationary bosses, the ones that don't move around too much, you can break them very fast by incorporating your ultimate between your skill cooldowns. That way, you get the most break possible. So, that's it for the skill rotation. Hopefully, that explained it. You want to build up those stacks by dodging, by using your E, and then rotating to other hunters. That way, you build up those stacks and also those greed stacks very, very quickly. ESIL is a very good hunter if you use it right, because in this case, as you can see up top, we have 30 stacks, but in the last run, I had 65 stacks, meaning we lost 10.5% damage, not just damage, we lost fire damage too. That's why it's so important to use your skill rotation correctly, otherwise you're losing out on damage, which is vital for any game mode right now, especially for the workshop. With hard mode coming out, you want to make sure you're using ESIL correctly, building up those 35 additional stacks by using the correct rotation. Oh baby. So that should be everything covered. We covered our substats, her skill rotations, her best build, her ideal scenarios when it comes to rotations, and her best team, which is obviously right now Yuso-Hyun and Gina. But do note, Kane is coming out, meaning potentially Yuso-Hyun or Gina's spot will be taken. Stay tuned. They're both very good hunters, and I can see one of them being swapped out for Kane, who's going to be our new fire DPS unit. But that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop a like. Make sure to subscribe. That way, I do know you want more content like this. On that note, this is your Code King Zaf, signing out.